This is the fourth video in a series asking whether people are possessed, and thus far the answer has been yes, yes, and yes. So is Tracy Twyman possessed? And the answer is yes. And as per usual, that's not my claim, that's her claim. When you hear what she has to say about herself, the answer is an emphatic yes. So, thus far we covered Grant Morrison, Jeffrey Kripal, and Genesis P. Orange. Now, some of you may recognize the name Tracy Twyman, as I'm sure she's appeared on many shows, such as those within what's generally known as the Truth Movement, Patriot Movement, and etc., where she's her research is appreciated because she has done a lot to expose the alchemical nature of the banking system. But then there's this whole other side to Tracy Twyman that gets into bloodletting, Ouija board communication with demons. And so let me take a step back. The basic issue behind the bankers is that there were institutions set up that would basically safeguard people's money. And then they started doing calculations, figuring out that only a minority of people would withdraw their money regularly. And when they did so, of course, they would only withdraw a minimal amount. So they figured that they would, they're sitting on all this money, right? It's not doing anything. So they figured they could lend out the money and charge interest. And that is the ultimate alchemy, is to make something out of nothing. They were taking money for which they did not work, money that was not theirs, money that's just there, they're sitting on it, they're safeguarding it. They're lending out your money, they're charging interest for your money, and they're getting wealthy by doing nothing really, just being middlemen. So that's the basic concept behind banking. And it's kind of fascinating because she condemns that, right? She condemns this form of bankster alchemy. But then she claims that the whole thing was inspired by Baphomet. And Baphomet is one of the beings with whom she's constantly taking marching orders. Again, I'm not saying that, she is, and you'll hear her say that. So it's kind of fascinating that you're taking marching orders from the very same being whom you condemn for setting up this corrupt banking system. And it's even more fascinating to note that biblically, what's generally known as usury is condemned. So within the Bible, this corrupt banking system is just utterly condemned. So now, Tracy Twyman tells this story about getting involved in using the Ouija board, which is kind of interesting because you even have psychics who claim to be in contact with dead people, all right? They're straight up necromancers, and even they'll tell you don't mess with a Ouija board. And I think one of the main reasons is that generally in magical type practices, the two biggest concepts are conjuring and banishing, right? So you conjure an entity, you do your dealings with them, and then you banish them. Well, the Ouija board is basically conjuring without banishing. And of course it's done as a fun game, so it's being done by a person who's utterly inexperienced, doesn't really know anything about it. They're basically putting a neon sign on top of their head that says, "Come in, we're open," to any entity that might be out there somewhere looking for someone to possess. And that, I think, is what it all comes down to from that particular perspective, okay? From their perspective, is that you're conjuring entities and you're not banishing them. So basically, it's a door that's wide open because you never closed it. Now, what many magicians will tell you, and we're talking occult, we're talking real magic, not prestidigitation, not stage magic, not illusion, all right? I mean, I think that my context is pretty clear. They'll tell you that after a certain amount of time of conjuring and banishing an entity, inevitably the entity will say words to the effect of, you think you could just call me and send me away like a common prostitute? And this is when the entity shows that this whole thing about conjuring and banishing was just a game. It was just to get the magician to believe that they have some kind of power over the spirit realm, which they do not have. So that now the entity starts taking over. Now the entity starts laying out the marching orders. And now you are the one basically being conjured by the entity to do its bidding. So she claims that her main contacts in the other world are demons. And then she specifically mentions that she's in contact with Cain and with Baphomet. And basically her goal in life now is to start videotaping her demon conjuring sessions via the Ouija board and put up the videos on YouTube so that just as soon as they tell her what she should be doing, she can spread that message to the world, literally on the World Wide Web. And you too now can get your marching orders from demons. Yes, that's right. Isn't modern technology wonderful? That's her goal in life. To instantly relay messages from demons to anybody who will listen to them through the World Wide Web, the entire planet. It is truly astonishing. And I find that this happens to a lot of people who are not believers. Now I'm talking within the Judeo-Christian context. They get into researching the occult and they inevitably end up involved in the occult. Now, she'll say something like, oh, I hate Aleister Crowley. I hate Anton LaVey. But I've actually used some of their materials. Yeah. So, you know, they kind of fool themselves into saying, yeah, I'm involved in the same exact practices, but they're on the dark side and I'm on the light side. Yeah, so that's okay. They're sorcerers, but I'm a magician. Or they're magicians, but I'm an alchemist. I mean, you know, they throw around all these terms. And it's kind of interesting because they're being manipulated so that the very thing they set out to discredit just turns their happy face to them, and then they like it. So the dark forces don't really care. I mean, it's just like it was stated within one of the Hellraiser movies. Angels to some, demons to other. Okay, these were the Cenobites, the same exact beings saying we appear as angels to some and demons to others. So the dark side doesn't care. If they want, they'll put on an ugly face, and those who are into the darkness will have an appeal. It'll appeal to them. But if they want, they'll just put on a happy face and, oh, you know, I'm a white witch. I'm an alchemist. I'm a mystic, and that's all good stuff. Yeah, only an ignorant, superstitious person would condemn that. They just obviously don't know what they're talking about. So, with all that being said, here she is in her own words. Oh, and by the way, as an addendum, within this particular interview, she was speaking with Freeman, who basically thinks it's a fantastic idea that she received messages from demons and puts them out for the entire world to access and to basically follow their marching orders. So there's another mystery that, well, it's not mysterious at all, is it? It's just right out in your face. Conjure demons and just relay what they have to say as far as what we should be doing. Because apparently to some people, That's a good idea.